As you may be aware that the 20-year review of the implementation of the World Summit on Information Society is taking place. And these negotiations could affect the foundational principles that have kept the internet open, globally connected, secure for over 2 decades. Questions in all our minds are, will the processes remain inclusive, rights respecting? Will the internet be governed by the principles of multi-stakeholder model, where all communities, the civil society, private sector, academia, technical community, will be recognized and have a significant role to play? What will be the mandate of the IGF? Will it be made permanent? There are many questions, and today we have a distinguished panel of experts from our region who will be discussing on these issues, on the implications of the WSIS+20 for digital transformation in our region. Looking at the zero draft, we would like to hear from them what they think should be our priorities and strategies so that the APAC region can contribute to this process. So we have with us Joyce Chen, who is the Senior Advisor for Strategic Engagement at APNIC. We have Veronica Deutrom from the Australian Government, Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts. We have Angela Wibawa from the Government and IGO Engagement. She's the director there of APAC from ICANN. And we have Adrian who is the Senior Manager, Policy and Advocacy at Internet Society. We would want it to be interactive. If you have any comments, questions, you can pose it into the chat. And so that we can have more discussion, I would like to go to all my panelists and ask them a question. And I would request you to keep to your time, that from the organization perspective you come from, what are your key priorities, or what are your organization's key priorities when you look at WSIS+20? And I'll start with Joyce, and then I'll go to Veronica, Adrian, and Angela. I see, you this way in the screen. So Joyce, over to you.
Thanks very much, Amrita, and hello to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, even good night if you're watching this from a different time zone. First of all, thanks for having me on this panel. It's a very distinguished, esteemed panel. I'm very honored to be part of this session. So just to answer your question, as we're looking ahead to the WSIS+20 outcomes, there are a few things that I think are worth highlighting that really matter to us at APNIC. First of all, we believe that the IGF is incredibly important. It's one of the few spaces where everyone gets a seat at the table. And so to keep it going strong, what it really needs is proper funding and continued support from all of us. APNIC, together with the Number Resource Organization, the NRO, we actually provide quite a lot of funding to the IGF. And so for us, having sustained funding is one of our top priorities for the IGF. Another point I'd like to make is that I think the WSIS+20 review process itself should be open and it should be inclusive. And what that means, Amrita, as you've pointed out, is that it means making sure governments, businesses, civil society, the technical community, and academia all have a voice. We all bring something that's valuable to this conversation. And throughout the process, we have been highlighting the role of the technical community. And so internet organizations and standards-making bodies like APNIC, ICANN, ISOC, the IETF are behind the scenes keeping the internet running smoothly. This work is essential and it deserves recognition. So I think to this end, the Zero Draft has actually done quite well in terms of accurately capturing language that embraces all stakeholders, including the technical community. Now, that doesn't mean, all is good. We can, sort of hang back and just let the process run, right? I think it's important that the process remains open to all stakeholders, even during the intergovernmental negotiation phase. Multi-stakeholder input and contribution are invaluable to the review process, particularly near the final stages. So I do hope that the WSIS+20 review process continues to remain the way that it has now, being open to feedback from all stakeholders. Finally, we're committed to building capacity and improving security. And that includes accelerating, of course, IPv6 adoption. We've been talking about that for decades, promoting routing security like RPKI, and offering training and capacity building across the Asia-Pacific region. So what I'm talking about now is specific to APNIC work. And also, I mean, just to highlight some of the avenues that we have been doing in APNIC and with the APNIC community to, shine some light and spotlight the WSIS+20 review process. We've had a couple of conversations in the APNIC community, and we have this special interest group called Cooperation SIG that takes place during the APNIC conferences. And for one or two of our Cooperation SIG sessions, we've talked about the WSIS+20 review process and used those opportunities to raise awareness with the APNIC community about what is happening in this space. So you're very welcome to review the recordings of these sessions. They are all publicly available online. And I mean, before I close off my opening remarks, I'd like to say, what can you do? Get involved, join discussions where there are discussions. I've pointed out the APNIC Cooperation SIG was one platform that we had some conversations, continue to participate in APrIGF and share your insights. And I hope that together we can help shape an internet that stays secure, open, interoperable for everyone. Thanks very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Joyce. Veronica, over to you. We know that the Australian government is doing a lot, but if you could share a bit more about how you're looking at it.
Thanks, Amrita, and thanks for inviting me onto the panel. As you mentioned, the Australian government is doing, I guess, we're trying to do a lot anyway. We're committed to the WSIS vision. It's very important to us. We see it as WSIS as being essential for achieving the SDGs and setting global norms for the digital environment. So it is very, very important for us that we are involved in the process. We're trying to be very active participants. So this is critical for us because we see it being engaged at each step of the WSIS process. WSIS+20 process helps us influence the outcomes of the review, so we can make sure that they align with our international and domestic priorities, but also can promote competitive international communications markets, which will obviously benefit everyone more broadly. So some of the things we are hoping to achieve as part of the WSIS process is to advance priority policy issues, things like connectivity and closing digital divides and promoting innovation and investment, increasing participation of youth and underrepresented groups, renewal of the WSIS process as an ongoing thing, but also of the IGF mandate, as Joyce mentioned. The IGF ecosystem is critically important to us, particularly not particularly, but including the national regional initiatives. And we want to also improve the coordination of stakeholder organisations across the internet governance and digital governance ecosystem. Among other things, I won't list them all, but I guess particularly relevant to us at the APrIGF and also to my own team in the department, which is the Internet Governance team. We'll also be working hard to ensure that the internet remains open and inclusive and that the current model of multi-stakeholder governance, internet governance remains in place. We've tried to be as collaborative and inclusive as possible in our preparations for WSIS+20. This is important to us. Obviously, the WSIS framework covers a whole range of issues, including the 11 action lines touch on the work of a lot of different Australian government departments. So we've had to engage quite broadly and make this the whole of government priority. So we've been making sure that our coordination across government is quite comprehensive so that we can progress our policy interests as they're related across all of the action lines. So we make sure that each of the line areas are engaged at each step to make sure they're fully updated, but that also we're equipped with the most current information on any policy issues so that we're prepared in the negotiation rooms. So we've been regularly speaking with other governments, private sector, technical community, civil society, other stakeholders to understand challenges and complexities and whatever gaps remain, so we can understand how this process can contribute to our national policy objectives and deliver improved support to underserved groups and take forward the WSIS vision and all of those things we all want to achieve. What's been quite important to us in our process is regularly testing our ideas with our multi-stakeholder network as we prepare. So we've been doing this since late last year. This has helped us to refine our positions as we develop our approach, but also to seek feedback on proposed text. We've got a fantastic group of stakeholders from across the community that we directly reach out to, including the people on this panel. Their expertise has been incredibly valuable throughout this process. We will continue to rely on their very frank contributions. This has been really important to us, but we've also reached out to the broader Australian community. So we've gone to the last 2 Australian IGFs and been involved in sessions and had a booth on the ground there, so we can engage directly with the community and find out what the priorities are there, and also to share our approach and really include our community at each step of the way. We've also used events like the IGF and the WSIS High Level event earlier this year to help us have a lot of bilateral meetings and various events in the sidelines to coordinate with stakeholders there too. So another thing we've sort of done that's been important for us to help generate ideas in this process and to really sort of think about how we could go forward as an outcome of this process was we developed a WSIS non-paper, which we've released early this year. We sort of launched it, soft launched it just before the IGF, sort of in the lead up to the WSIS High Level event. And it was really just intended as a starting point for discussions. It was not government policy, it was nothing official, but it had a lot of ideas and approaches in there that were based on our review of the evidence of what conversations we'd have and perspectives of thousands of stakeholders. So they covered a lot of issues such as connectivity, youth, innovation, online safety, AI, in governance mechanisms and all of those sorts of things. So it was a great conversation starter. We had a lot of people at our booth at the IGF Village with a lot of feedback and not always agreeing with us, which is, I guess, part of the fun, but particularly as the Elements paper had been released around the same time, it was really, really useful. So some of those ideas made it into the zero draft, probably independent of the paper, but it was quite good to see them in there anyway. And hopefully we'll see them evolve into positive ways forward. So of course, the work is not done yet. As Joyce mentioned, it's still ongoing and we've still got some way to go before the resolution's agreed later this year, but we'll continue to engage quite broadly. And we'll continue to seek feedback from the community as we develop our policy positions, and we look forward to seeing the process evolve and hopefully secure a very positive digital future for everybody. Thank you, Amrita. Thank you so much,
Veronica. And I'll move to Adrian. We did hear Sally yesterday during the town hall and the stakeholder discussion, which was there on WSIS+20. But Adrian, if you would like to share more on the Internet Society, where it stands, if there are anything else you would like to add.
Of course. Thank you, Amrita, and hello to everyone. At the Internet Society, we've taken an active part, which is, the mic doesn't work sometimes. Can I make sure everyone hears me clearly? Great, thank you. So at the Internet Society, we've taken an active part in the various consultations, such as the Elements paper and the Zero Draft so far. And in fact, several of us on this panel have also worked together on raising awareness of WSIS+20, together with intergovernmental organizations such as the Asia Pacific Telecommunity, right, to help to make them understand the significance of WSIS+20. And that's really our key focus. We want to ensure that the WSIS+20 review continues the multi-stakeholder internet governance, not just to include the voices of stakeholders, but to really meet diverse needs. Because it is what we need to be able to close the digital divides and address inequalities. Our focus has also been to, as previous speakers have briefly mentioned, we would like to see a permanent internet governance forum with sustainable funding and a strengthened secretariat to ensure its continued evolution. Other than that, not to repeat any points raised already, I agree with all of them so far. But we also like to see continued, implementation of the WSIS action lines, and that can ensure that the implementation of the WSIS action lines is complemented and not duplicated by the GDC, the Global Digital Compact. So we think that in our engagements with various stakeholder groups in the region and around the world, we feel that some more effort has to be made to ensure that we include the voices of really more stakeholders, and that we realize that the future of internet governance cannot be shaped by governments alone. It's too important for it to be left to the governments alone. And so all of us should have a stake in that future. And we understand that not all governments or stakeholders have the resources to be in New York all the time, have offices in Geneva, New York. But we're here to help. I feel that all of us on this panel have been trying to do that as well, to bridge that gap, and so that to empower different stakeholders to have a stake in the future. So that's pretty much our priorities so far. I'll pass it on back to Amrita. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrian. And it's important that we need to make it more inclusive, and more effort is needed. And with that, I will go to Angela. Angela, ICANN has been involved in the WSIS+20 discussions, etc. But can you share more about why ICANN cares about it? What are the priorities?
Thank you, Amrita, and good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. I'm glad to speak to you today here from Singapore. As what Amrita said, we will share ICANN priorities for WSIS+20 and how we have been participating in this process. So similar to how this session has been described, for ICANN and the broader internet community, the core issue at stake is the future of multi-stakeholder model of internet governance. So this model has enabled an open, secure, and interoperable internet. But there are some stakeholders who have advocated for a centralized control, claiming that the model has not worked and there are gaps. So if this centralized control is adopted, decision-making could shift to a single body, making decision-making longer, more complicated, less transparent, and more importantly, as what some of the panel members have said, exclude key internet stakeholders such as participants here. So this also risks technical fragmentation. This reduces the ability to innovate, slower digital transformation, and weaken global interoperability. Yes, WSIS has a very broad scope. Most of them are beyond ICANN's remit. So a lot of our efforts so far have been focused and aligned with ICANN's missions and remit. And to address what Amrita has asked just now, ICANN's goals for WSIS+20 review are quite, I have to say, narrow, but they are to serve a broader purpose. So we want to preserve the multi-stakeholder model of the internet governance. We hope to see a continued recognition of the unique role of the technical community in the internet governance, and we hope to see internet governance mandate be extended. Now, this is the disadvantage of being the last speaker sharing on this point. A lot of my former panel members have said very accurately and very eloquently on why these policies and why these priorities matter. So I've mentioned briefly earlier about why the important role of multi-stakeholder model of internet governance, why it should be preserved. So on the second point about the technical community. So this technical community comprises organizations and groups that play essential roles in the internet's daily technical operations. The unique function of this group ensures, like what Joyce explained earlier, ensures that the internet remains operating smoothly, interoperability, supporting businesses, governments, civil society, users in general. Hence, in order for the future of the internet to be technically sound, continue to be technically sound, this particular group should be properly represented when policies related to internet are considered. And in order for this to happen, their unique role as a distinct stakeholder group should be recognized. And of course, on my last point regarding the ICANN's priority for the IGF's mandate, I think I'm preaching to the choir here as to how important this platform is, including the national and regional editions. The IGF enables all stakeholders to engage equally and to exchange ideas that support the internet development. So in order to achieve these goals, ICANN have been strengthening engagement to advocate for principles that seek to strengthen the internet. So our engagement focus on sharing knowledge to enable informed participation. So we have partnered with a lot of like-minded organizations, including those in this panel, to raise awareness and encourage actions. We also work closely with various parts of the government because at the end of the day, WSIS is a government-led process. So just like what Ambassador from Kenya has said yesterday during the session, we encourage various stakeholders, parts of the stakeholders, regions, including this region, to continue sharing their views. So ICANN has participated in the WSIS process even before the administrative work formally started in the middle of this year. Just to name a few, we regularly provide written input to all relevant processes. For instance, at the beginning, when the drafters start collecting information on the gaps of where the WSIS accomplishments are, what are the gaps, we provided input of those. And we also participated in discussions like what Veronica mentions in IGF, in high-level events, in some of those meetings to raise awareness on what's important for the internet community. And we also provided inputs for the Elements paper and the Zero Draft that was recently published. In doing so, we seek to be helpful to the process, to showcase that when multi-stakeholder consultation channel is being provided, we will contribute to it in a meaningful way. So the WSIS+20 process will be progressing quickly, very quickly, in the next couple of months. As we speak, there will be consultation sessions at the UN today and tomorrow. This consultation session seeks to discuss, among other things, the feedback to the Zero Draft. We expect these discussions to be continued in ICANN public meeting happening in the next couple of weeks in Dublin. Following which, these consultations will likely be repeated in November. All of this will be happening while the UN member states are negotiating for the final outcome document for the WSIS+20 review. As you can see, there's not much time left. But there is no reason to delay your participation if you're keen to be involved. It's not too late. That being said, I know the process can be complicated to many, especially if you have not been following the topic closely. So that's a common feedback amongst many, especially if you're operating on thin resources. But there are available resources out there. You can leverage this. So for example, ICANN has established the WSIS Outreach Network to share valuable information. This network comprises a mailing list where it's member-generated content. Members share useful information, insights. So you don't have to follow the processes yourself. Somebody will let you know, hey, so-and-so is happening. This is the registration page. This is our view. This is their views. And you can hear this and hopefully perhaps get ideas, generate ideas on what's important to you. So if this process piques your interest, I encourage you to find out more. I will drop the link to our network webpage so that you can find out more. And of course, some of the resources that my fellow panelists have shared here and so how you can participate in an informed and meaningful way. So I will end my sharing here and look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. And now we have about 35 minutes to the session, and I'll have a rapid fire question round with my panelists. You have 3 minutes so that we can have 3 sets of questions. If not, we'll take 2. So the first question to all of you would be, and please try to keep it brief, is your reflections on the WSIS+20 Zero Draft, as well as the submissions which have been made. What are the opportunities and concerns, the hits and misses from your end? So now I see Joyce, Adrian, Angela, and Veronica. So I go this way.
Thanks, Amrita, for the question. I think we've already heard from the town hall yesterday some feedback on the Zero Draft and some views on it. But just to add on to it, I think that what the Zero Draft has done well is that it has reaffirmed the multi-stakeholder model. It proposes to make the IGF permanent, which for me, it was a pleasant surprise. Like the wording there was actually quite direct and very strong about it, which I think is great. But I think one thing that I want to highlight and that I've highlighted across different dialogues is that we need to be careful about what we ask for, because there is still a latent risk that making the IGF permanent under the UN could lead to an erosion of its multi-stakeholder nature in a longer term fashion. So I think some of the written contributions to the Zero Draft have already started addressing this. They've emphasized that the IGF should retain its multi-stakeholder nature. It should retain the way of working that is also multi-stakeholder, and to respect that. I think what the draft has done well also is emphasizing human rights online, digital inclusion, the need to bridge persistent digital divides. These are issues that I think are highly relevant to economies in the Asia-Pacific region. They are issues that we see persistently continue to happen despite having the IGF for so many years. And of course, I think there's a section as well on implementation roadmaps and measurable targets. All well and good. I think it's always good when you have something that is positive for accountability and progress tracking. I think some concerns for me would be how to avoid duplication of WSIS+20 outcomes with the Global Digital Compact. I think more thought needs to be put there. The draft does speak about complementarity, but it doesn't really touch on how there would be a clearer delineation of roles. I think there have been some thought pieces that are circulating around online. Feel free to go check them out, where it talks about the different roles of the agencies. There's ODAT, there's UNGIS, there's DESA. How do these different agencies then work together towards WSIS+20 outcomes and still factor in the GDC? So I think this piece is still very much sort of up in the air, how it would actually work. And I think the negotiations in the coming months, hopefully there'll be some clarity about that. So I think as well, the draft is very careful to balance multilateral intergovernmental interests with the wider multi-stakeholder community. And I think also in the coming months, it would be very important to watch how negotiations would take place that try to strike the right balance between these two systems. Again, these are not competing systems, they are complementary ones. So it's really more about how we can reinforce multi-stakeholder and multilateral systems to be able to work together or in tandem, as opposed to competing with one another. The last point I'd like to make is that I think the draft does well to acknowledge that there is a diversity of needs ranging from more developed economies to the developing and least developed economies. And so I hope that sort of approach continues, because there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So if we can have solutions that look at different realities, and in Asia-Pacific, it's so diverse as a region, there is not going to be one approach that would have a solution for every economy in the region. And so I think the draft could do better in that respect. Not just touching on the general things at the broad level, but really looking at solutions that could be more region specific. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Joyce. And before I go to Adrian, a comment from an APrIGF fellow there. Special for us is public confidence grows when people see that their voices matter in decision-making. Inclusive participation is not merely consultation. It is a principle of democratic digital governance. Adrian, over to you. The hits and misses of the Zero Draft as you see it.
Thank you, Amrita. Yeah, I agree with actually all of the points that Joyce raised so far. To me and to the Internet Society, we feel it is the time to get the detail right at this stage of the process. The elements paper gave the high-level vision. The Zero Draft was a great starting point, and Joyce was absolutely right. It's time to get the details right, and that's why there are a few things that we feel we should really zero in on. For instance, the role of community-centered connectivity in connecting the unconnected around the world, and especially in APAC, such a diverse region where there are many small island developing states, least developed countries, LDCs, and also landlocked nations, LLDCs. Because when you think about it, when we talk about bridging the digital divide, these cases stand to benefit most from an international agreement, like a treaty like this, a WSIS. So it is basically designed to lift these cases up. So it'd be a missed opportunity not to include the voices from these cases. So we feel that we've tried to call out the need to address the elements that facilitate an enabling environment for meaningful connectivity, especially in relation to these food groups, so that we can facilitate measures to foster investment, innovation, and technological development, so that we can extend the benefits of the internet to everyone. Besides that, we also want to see stronger recognition of the national and regional initiatives, the NRIs, in advancing multi-stakeholder collaboration in regions and within member states. We want to see these efforts better integrated in internet governance at the global level. So yeah, just 2 quick points to share at this stage, Amrita, back to you.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for this. And we'll move to Angela. And I do see there's an active chat going on, which is great. Angela, over to you.
Thank you, Amrita. So ICANN considers the Zero Draft a well-crafted text that provides a strong basis for further development. So in particular, we welcome the inclusion of several positive elements that we hope will be retained in the final version, such as the affirmation of the multi-stakeholder cooperation, recognition of linguistic diversity, acknowledgement of the risk of fragmentation of the internet architecture, commitment to an open and interoperable internet, recognition of the evolution of the IGF, that it's not just a one-year annual event, but it's a whole ecosystem on its own, support for the permanence and strengthening of the IGF. So we've submitted a detailed feedback, of course, along with some of the panel members here, including how we think the draft could be further improved. So in terms of opportunities, I guess at this point, we want to look at it from a positive point of view. That is a great basis on, and we want to learn more, hear more from, especially the UN member states who are going to start negotiations very soon on what they think need to be improved. I do agree with the point of view that the text, being that it's a high-level text, it lacked a lot of details. And of course, but the good thing about it is that it brings out a lot of this discussion into what else can be added in. So for instance, there are some questions on what is the impact of making the IGF permanent, how to improve beyond just making the IGF permanent. Will it stay the same? So at least from our point of view is we're happy that this discussion is happening, and continue to provide your ideas as to how the IGF can be improved, to how IGF that we want can be improved, and present that ideas to the co-facilitators, because that's how the government can think, that's how the text can think further as to how to improve IGF. What is the future of IGF that we want? So from our point of view, it's a good way to start this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica, over to you.
Thank you. Angela basically ended the way I'm about to start, in saying that the Zero Draft, from our perspective, is a good start. It does already reflect some of the things that are important to us and that we would have, I guess, been seeking to have included in it. So I guess that's a good start. The IGF being made permanent would be very welcome in our eyes. We think the IGF ecosystem, as I said before, is incredibly important for discussing digital policy, including the national, regional initiatives. We already actively engage very much in our national initiative, the Australian IGF, and I'm very happy to be here today. So certainly these, all the various layers and different levels of the IGF ecosystem are incredibly important for discussion of digital policy, and it would be great to see that strengthened. A focus in the draft text on human rights, inclusivity, addressing the digital divides, including for women and girls and vulnerable and marginalised groups, is also very positive. These are very significant and very important issues for us across government, and these are a very significant factor in our region's ability to address emerging challenges and to leverage the opportunities of the digital world. We think a little more work needs to be done to refine language and to, I guess, devil's in the details, as has been mentioned in the chat and in the contributions of the panelists. But I think there's some groundwork there to be able to negotiate a positive and action-oriented agenda for the future, and we think there's a bit of potential there for us to be able to build on. And Australia's definitely very committed to working collaboratively with other member states and with stakeholders to make sure that the drafting of the text up until the negotiation end of the year will deliver a consensus outcome that benefits everybody. So back to you, Amrita.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And the questions which came in the chat from Jasmine, given the lengthy nature of WSIS document covering lots of different areas, how do you localize the global context to facilitate participation of local community? And Ashirvad adding, we also need to make sure the voices of subnational groups are heard to connect internet governance to local communities. My question to the panelists would be, what do you think should be the priorities for ensuring an inclusive participation for diverse APAC economies and communities? And what can the APrIGF community do to take part in this process? Is it too late? So these are two questions, and I think it builds upon what Jasmine had also shared. So Joyce first, Adrian, Angela, and Veronica.
Thanks for the question, and great questions coming in from the audience as well. I think to make participation truly inclusive, we need to first look at capacity building, and especially capacity building for underrepresented economies. So what that means is financial support for travel, remote participation, better accessibility, really all the things that the APrIGF itself is doing very, very well. We also need to bring in youth. We need to ensure gender balance, all the sort of diversity markers that we have to make sure that we are hitting. I think one important point is also that we should use regional platforms like the APrIGF to align our voices before we go global. And some of this work has been done, and I can go into that a little bit later. If I just dial back to APNIC, so APNIC has supported capacity building and especially technical capacity building in many various forms, whether it's by providing funding, whether it's by actual hands-on training. So we have done a lot in terms of providing funding and support for greater participation. Now, to the question posed by Jasmine regarding how we localize the global context and facilitate participation with the local community, I think one good start is to host local conversations and dialogues. The idea is that you need to do some level setting for your community so that everyone is elevated to a similar point of understanding. There is a lot of context and a lot of background surrounding the WSIS process, and only by having the veterans sort of share their battle stories, and help us and guide us to look out for certain things, then through this process, we can refine the way that we are thinking and refine the way that we think through these issues. If you ask me, is it too late for the APrIGF? I think I'd like to think the answer is no, it's not too late. The WSIS+20 review process so far has been very open to input. The consultations are still ongoing. If you look at the preparatory roadmap, there are still opportunities, such as, in the next part would be the draft outcome document for, during which community can again provide input and have consultations at that stage. And as well, I'm happy to also share that the APrIGF has a WSIS+20 working group. Amrita is a proud member of that as well, which incidentally I chair. And we had submitted a consolidated outcome document that basically summarized a webinar that we had hosted where we gathered input from the APrIGF community. So one of the working group members will be issuing a statement based on this contribution during the upcoming stakeholder consultations. I believe it's tomorrow is that session. And so I think there are a lot of different things that are happening in this space, trying to increase participation for the APrIGF and the Asia Pacific community. And so I think it's just a matter of finding where all these different touch points are and how to get involved. I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you, Joyce. Okay, I do see Angela now in my screen. Somehow things have moved. So we'll go to Angela first now. Next.
Thank you, Amrita. And I hope I'm audible because I found certain things or I got some pop-up. So to answer the question, I agree with what Joyce said. It's important to localize the global context, and how to do so is, well, listen while we're trying to raise awareness. So the reason why I said that is because the broader community, many people in this panel actually already tried to raise awareness in WSIS a long time before. And the issue is that there are a lot of competing interests in APAC region. And it's very fair, it's very right that sometimes WSIS does not look like it's relevant to you at the time it was started to raise awareness. So it is important that I would encourage you to ask questions, start the dialogue, find out what you need to do, find out how you can participate, because sometimes the how matters also, so that you can participate meaningfully and you can understand what it translates into your context. In terms of, is it too late to participate? No, I don't think it's too late. Yes, you need to catch up a lot more because the process will be happening very fast. While we are pleased with how the zero draft took shape, there is no guarantee on how the final shape of the WSIS+20 outcome document will look like. So don't take things for granted. We are not taking things for granted. ICANN will continue to engage in subsequent WSIS processes so that important aspects will hopefully be retained in subsequent iterations. And we urge the APAC communities to share your views too. There are various channels to do that, so it's not difficult. The co-facilitators have created this informal multi-stakeholder sounding board, which Amrita is a member of, and some of the known names that we are familiar with in this region are member of that too. They can be a channel to channel through your interests, your concern, what you think needs to be improved. We have to remember the WSIS+20 is a government-led process, so use your network, reach out to governments to let them know what you need for your digital future. So the UN negotiators will start the negotiation in the next few days, but nonetheless, there's still opportunity to engage. Yes, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Veronica, over to you.
Thank you very much. The Asia Pacific region is incredibly diverse, which is no news to anybody on this call. We've got a huge large youth population that's very switched on and engaged in the digital policy space, and there's a lot of diversity in terms of language and culture and economies and different readiness to engage in the digital space. And our region's interests and priorities need to be reflected in the outcomes of processes like WSIS. So we all need to bring our perspectives, so that includes non-government stakeholders. This is a multilateral process. Governments will ultimately be in the room, but we need everyone's voices on this. So Australia certainly is committed to improving how our region is represented in processes like this. Not just Australia, many governments also are, but this isn't just a matter for governments to deal with. It's a whole of community job, basically. So in terms of whether it's too late, as others have said on the panel, no, it's not. You can still get involved. There will be future consultation processes. Governments are still wanting to hear from you. But also, for those that are participating already in the process, how can we then support others that aren't currently involved? If you can't get in the room, how can you work with those that are, whether it's working with governments, working with organisations who might be more influential in this space. If you can get in the room, what can you do to advocate for those that are not there? So, how, are you speaking with your communities to understand their perspectives as well? So, in terms of dealing with others within the community to collaborate, use structures like the IGF or like ICANN, who are putting together their policy positions and contributing to these processes. If you don't have the time to do this yourself, the resources to do it yourself. Speak with your governments. They rely on your expertise to know what your priorities are, to know how they can be achieved, how they can be applied in a practical policy setting. So we often don't know the technical implications of some of the policy work that we're dealing with, and that includes some of the stuff in the WSIS process. So certainly Australia's found it critically important to deal with, to consult, to engage, to seek advice from people throughout the community. So, and certainly as Angela said, engage the informal multi-stakeholder sounding board as well. They're there to collate and to gather and to synthesize stakeholder feedback as well, so that can be better applied to this process. So there are certainly plenty of other ways the community can get involved. As Angela said, the community can't just sit back and just take this for granted. We can't assume that processes like this will result in outcomes that will benefit us and our interests, and often it's the loudest voices that are the most influential. So participate, I guess, stay informed, raise your voice your concerns, contribute your expertise where you can. Stay informed through the WSIS list that Angela mentioned, the ICANN's distribution list. That's actually incredibly valuable. I'm subscribed to that as well, and that certainly helps me keep across it all. So you get a lot of expert opinions and views and feedbacks and takes on the various steps of the process. So it's quite useful to get an idea of what everyone thinks of things like the zero draft. There was a very big discussion about different impressions on that. So certainly take advantage of other people's thinking. You don't have to do it all yourself, so get involved, and I think speak up. And I'm biased, but please do engage your respective governments if you can. It helps us to advocate for you in the room. So obviously governments are in that position where they are in the room. Certainly make use of that. Let us be your voice, and help us to, I guess, progress your interests when those negotiations start. So that's probably my suggestion. It's not too late, but everyone's got to get involved and make the effort. Thanks, Amrita.
Thank you so much, Veronica. We have 12 minutes. So, Adrian, I'm going to cut your time 2 minutes to respond to it if it's possible. And then we have some questions we'll look at.
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Amrita. Agree with all the points that Veronica and Angela raised just now about the importance of engaging with your governments. One quick thing I think we all can do, all of us in the room, try and understand the positions of your governments. Go on the DESA website, see if they've submitted their responses to the various documents so far. If you don't find the name listed, or chances are they might not be as involved in the process, but perhaps you could share your views and try and nudge them in the right direction as well, and to show it's something you care about as well. So as the Internet Society will be engaging with this process deeply over the next few weeks as it enters critical stage, and we will have a team at the ICANN 84 meeting in Dublin, Ireland later this month, where there will be a community consultation. And another channel we have to engage with all of you is through our chapters. We have a Internet Society chapter in Pacific Islands, Japan, Australia, and many other places. We do work with them, and some of you are in those chapters as well, to help inform your government. So yeah, some quick responses, Amrita, back to you.
Thank you so much, Adrian. There were a few questions which Joyce has answered, but I thought I'd raise it. In case anyone wants to speak, apart from that, you can raise your hand. Maria Luisa Anna shared about the IGF's permanent mandate, that it is a significant step. What are the most critical elements that must be included in its new mandate to ensure that it doesn't become another bureaucratic body, but remains a dynamic and influential forum? And Jordan shared that, will the WSIS review put the IGF at risk if it reopens the IGF mandate? Are there better or other ways to adjust the mandate beyond the intergovernmental negotiation? Jeremy shared that the draft point 26, it mentions about elderly, ethnic, linguistic minorities, indigenous communities, even migrants. But he suggests that it does not reflect on the internally displaced persons in APAC region, like in countries of conflict like Palestine, Burma, or the Middle East countries. Sasan had some questions on building capacity, on cybersecurity, etc., which was responded in the chat. Anyone wants to have a take on Jordan's question? I think Joyce did respond to Anna, or anything else in these questions? Sorry, I gave it all together because I think we have some 8 minutes left. Anyone wants to take Jordan's question? Okay, Angela, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Amrita. Yes, that's a lot of questions. That's a mouthful. I don't know how you do, and I don't know how you do it to compile everything together. I will do my best to just perhaps pick up a few points, but not, of course, I can't answer everything. In terms of the examination of the mandate, I think yes, there's always a risk in doing something, especially when it comes to UN processes, because they're all interlinked. And of course, the legal reading or the text, at the end of the day, the text have to be written in a certain way. It could have inadvertent effect. So there is danger of that. And that is a risk. That's why there's a lot of discussion as to what is the impact of doing so and so. In terms of examination of the mandate outside of the intergovernmental examination of the mandate of IGF outside of it, the intergovernmental process, I personally don't think it's possible, because the mandate of the IGF was given by the Tunis Agenda, which in itself was the result of an intergovernmental process, and therefore it's examined through that process. Discussion as to what we want the mandate to be or how we want a future of IGF to be can be done outside. And a lot of the government wants to hear from us, the people who actually actively involved in IGF, how to improve it. We know what's the important things, or we know how to improve it, and we know realistically what can work and what will not work. So that's where the input is important, to feed into the drafters, to feed into your government. What is an IGF that we want? What is a future of IGF that we hope to see? So that's why this conversation is important, and that's why it's important to be detailed and realistic with some of the ideas. I will drop in the link a feedback that ICANN provided for the Zero Draft recently, and in it we annexed this document called the IGF We Want. It's a working document listing out what we think can be improved from IGF in the future. And I will stop there and pass on to whoever else wants to add in. Thanks.
Right. I see Joyce's hand up. So Joyce, over to you.
Thanks very much. And again, great questions. We are in a race against time. My laptop is also dying. I have 8% left. So this is a race to the bottom, really. But I think just to summarize what I had put into the chat, trying to reply people's questions as well in real time, I think really is with looking at safeguards. What are the safeguards that we have in place to ensure that the IGF and all the NRIs really preserve their multi-stakeholder nature and way of working, which was the point that I had raised earlier. And I think one of the good things about the multi-stakeholder model is that it is very preoccupied with safeguards. It's very preoccupied with, building in accountability, building in processes that are open and transparent, and that have results at the end of the day that you can go back to and review. And I think so if we do a deep dive into different multi-stakeholder models that are practiced across, the internet organizations, the standard-making bodies, the IGFs as well, there are many different ways for which the multi-stakeholder model can work, but we all retain similar values and the spirit of which, we feel is important when we talk about these things. And so I think when answering the question of, how do we ensure that the IGF retains its multi-stakeholder nature, it's really going back to look at these safeguards again. You already have ready references, right? You're not trying to build something from scratch again. And as I've mentioned also in the chat, we're not trying to dismantle the IGF so that it can fit into the UN system better. It already is something that's really made for us. And so it's really about how we strengthen it, how we improve it, how we make it even more multi-stakeholder, if that is even possible, but still respecting that is in that multilateral space. I'll stop here because I know Adrian has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Adrian, 1 minute to respond.
Thank you, Amrita, and great questions. I just wanted to answer, I think also to Anna's question about the IGF and how to keep it multi-stakeholder. Joyce gave a lot of great examples. I just wanted to add one, and that's the need to recognize important milestones in the evolution of multi-stakeholder governance, such as the Net Mondial +10 statement that set out helpful guidance on how to implement multi-stakeholder governance, and that's only one of them. So one of the safeguards that we could implement. I feel this would be important and help keep the IGF multi-stakeholder as we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. And while people get pretty for the group photograph, my last question to you, call for action, a tweet from you. What would be your call for action? So Joyce, Adrian, Angela, and Veronica. A tweet.
Oh gosh, I don't tweet, so this is hard. I think the only way to preserve the multi-stakeholder model is that everyone participates. And that means you don't just sign up for something and then you're quiet and silent and you let others do the work. Like the multi-stakeholder model is really everybody participating, not only pitching your voice, but actually pitching in the effort to do the work. That's it.
Adrian.
Thank you, Amrita. The internet is for everyone, and that's why we think the future of digital cooperation is at stake. It depends on all of us connecting, listening, and building together. This is the moment for us to work together.
Thank you. Angela?
Oh my, this is difficult. I also don't tweet. I have very minimum social presence. So in terms of what's important that I think we should take away is a little bit of something inspired by what Joyce said. The system, the multi-stakeholder way of participating has been made available for us. If we want our voice to be heard, if we want APAC to be properly represented, we need to speak up in an informed way at the proper channel so that our words will be heard by the correct people who can make those differences for us. We alone can't do it. Together, we can influence and help inform the people who can and will make things happen. So, but everybody's participation is necessary, and that's what we're here for, to let you know and also to help you, inform you where to go, how to say, and those information. The information is available, and we're happy to share it with you. But we need everybody's action. Thank you.
Thank you. And the showstopper would be Veronica from the government. For once, the government comes at the last point. To you, Veronica.
No pressure on the showstopper comment, no. But also not on don't tweet, so it might be a bit longer than what's on Twitter. But basically, building on what Angela said is speak up, participate, get involved, and if you are trying to influence or trying to have your say, I guess, taken forward by the government, speak up in a harmonised voice. allyship is important. Find people that are working in your space. Advocate where you can, work together, collaborate, and if you can speak in a harmonised voice and develop some kind of even rough consensus, even though everyone has different priorities and not everyone will agree, but if you can speak together in a coordinated voice, you'll be a lot more influential in this space. So that's probably my recommendation with how you can get involved. I guess a lot more impactful when people are speaking up and working together. So,
Thank you so much, everyone, to all the panelists. We finished on time. Congratulations. You have been very good and kind to me. Now we'll have a group photograph. So if Rani and Jen, if you can help us, if you can all switch on your cameras and we'll take some pictures, which we will post on social media from APrIGF.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Great one, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And please join the town hall. And thank you all for participating. And thank you to my great panelists.